Damn it. So this user shares, how do you look at your past and not view it as regret and failure? Long story short, I failed at everything I hoped to get into, career-wise and education-wise. I feel like my life, especially post-undergraduate degree, has been a huge regret. I haven't been successful at anything. I can't help but look at my past and think of how much of a F up I am. I'm in the same boat, to be honest. I failed at everything I've ever tried to do in life. It gets hard, waking up every morning knowing that you could have succeeded and you just fall short or whatever. A lot of the time you feel ashamed. But you have to understand that regret and failure are not always negative. I don't know why people always put in their heads that to have regret and to have failure is bad. I especially hate people that live by that credo, no regrets. I think that's a very arrogant way of looking at things, because when you don't have regret, you feel that you don't do anything wrong. And in reality, people make mistakes. And when you don't regret those mistakes, you continue to be just this unhinged psychopath. The important thing is when you make decisions in life, the decision you make has to be something that you can live with it. Another motto that some people live by is, if you never try, then you never fail. It's just another thing I don't agree with. Personally, it's not the kind of life that I think anyone should live, really. Don't get me wrong, failure can be negative and regret can be negative as well, but a lot of things in life is about context. When you don't look at the bigger picture, then yeah, it seems very lopsided. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, then it makes things better. For example, they say that history repeats itself, and the reason is we don't like to feel obligated to review every once in a while, because history can be quite embarrassing. It can be shameful. You look back at the things that you've done, how much of a loser you were, how weak you were, how much you couldn't do anything. But you have to also look at it in a positive light, like, where are you now because of those failures and those choices that you made that you regret now? Going back, I fail every day, brother. I try so hard to do everything, and I don't manage to get there. When I look at it, all I do is just keep putting in the training and the effort and the repetition and all the work, and I'm just always short of the finish line. And I want it so badly. Don't get me wrong, The reality is probably that I'm not as big of a failure as I think I am, which is, the same thing I can say about you. You failed into everything, career-wise and education-wise. I'll tell you something, man. I've studied 3 professions. I only finished 1. And due to circumstances out of my control, I don't even get to practice that one profession I finished. So I've studied business management, computer science, and architecture. I did dabble into some engineering as well for a couple months. But yeah, for business management, people don't want to give me that chance. So I tried to be realistic, and I went into computer science. I did work in IT for a while, like maybe about 2 years. And I was too impatient for it at the time, because a lot of things were happening in my life that were just out of my control. I wanted to be better at this, but if you knew how many parts were involved in putting together a piece of technology, you have to have a lot of patience to be in that. And I was going through a lot of issues that I just couldn't focus on that. So I wasn't doing so well. And then eventually I moved into architecture, which I almost didn't finish because, once again, situations were out of my control. So I ended up stopping for a while. And then when I had decided to finally come back, everything that I was afraid of losing started going one by one. Man, it's such a challenge, but I managed to finish. And I went into the profession with high hopes, and more bad things just kept happening. I got trapped again into a position where I didn't want to go too far because I was waiting for something. I got trapped in this idea that I needed to win the lottery to make everything okay. And it wasn't happening. Nothing was happening in my life. Everything was just falling apart. Then I was finally getting good, in my career and everything. Everything just seemed to start working out. And all of a sudden, now I'm faced with this new problem where everything I had worked for would be gone. There's a lot of other things in life that continually just happen, and now I'm at this new position in life where I'm hoping I can continually build up. But at the same time, I realize it's not like before, where what was against me was my youth or my knowledge of the politics around me or the people that I had to rely on to get me from point A to point B. Now I can handle all of that on my own, but now time is against me. You just try to be strong every day. You try to wake up in the morning and try to make it work. And you don't know if it's gonna work anymore, because you just keep getting into this situation where you're failing and failing and failing. But I'm much stronger than I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Every single time my life was getting together, a problem would come up completely out of my control. And all I could do was my best to compose myself. And I did not do so well, which is something that I regret. I made a lot of stupid choices in life. If I just had slightly went the right direction, I can't describe how painful it is. So many opportunities. And a lot of those opportunities I threw away were because I was in the state where I couldn't decide things properly. And when you're at that point of desperation, you tend to choose the direction that will be less strenuous on yourself. I remember the one thing that I wanted to do in my university years, to do this exchange program to Japan. I wasn't a bad student in terms of academics. I'll admit I was a bit lazy, especially since the beginning. I had put so much hard work into things. I didn't feel I got the credit I deserved, whereas others, they did what they did and they got marks that are just unfathomable. It kind of made me become a lazy student because, you work so hard, and the premise that you get rewarded for working hard, nothing happened. But I was recognized for standing out in a lot of ways. So the one thing I remember that I truly wanted to do was get into this exchange program to go to Japan, study in Japan for a year. I had all the marks necessary to get into it. But unfortunately, Japan didn't offer an exchange program to architecture students. Now I'm in this position of regret. I'm in this situation where I'm doing my best and it's just not getting there. If I had just picked a different course, I could have gotten into this program. It was a heavy feeling because I was also in the student council at the time, and the opposition was selling their lies and whatnot, and it just made me sick to my stomach, like how they talked about it. And here I am, I'm capable of doing the same thing, but just because the same course wasn't offered, I don't get that opportunity. But that person that's selling lies and everything, they had that opportunity. They deserved it more than I did. It made me feel like a failure. You will fall apart at some points in your life. You look at your past and think, I can't believe that's how it played out. And you will see that there are a lot of things that you really wanted that you weren't successful in. But you shouldn't let that block out the positive things. Failure isn't always negative. Regret isn't always negative. Even the smallest successes matter. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Every small bit of success in your life is meaningful, okay? It might not show now because you're down. You're just feeling it. You're feeling the weight on your shoulders. And you don't need to prove yourself to anybody. You don't need to prove that, okay? Just keep walking your path. And hopefully, here I am, man. I'm telling you right now, I have to start over again because I don't have any choice. I have a choice. So I made a choice. It is a regret that I can live with. There will be parts that I will succeed in, and there will be parts that I fail in. It's just a part of life. You are not defined by how many times you fall down. Stand back up, man. If you fail, look at it as a lesson. I'm going to leave that there. And as always, I hope we can better ourselves. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.